Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Education for September 24th, 2018. We don't have a large crowd, but they're enthusiastic.
We can tell.
Yay. Mrs. Bonnefield, would you take the roll, please?
I would. Mrs. Bradford.
Here.
Mrs. Burton isn't with us this evening. Mr. Center.
Here.
Mrs. Frank.
Here.
Mrs. Jarvis.
Here.
Mrs. Bonnefield is here. President Johnson.
Here, we have a quorum. Mrs. Frank, would you help us with the pledge tonight, please?
Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome again, and as Ms. Bonnefield indicated, Mrs. Burton will not be with us tonight. She is tending to family work with her daughter who is trying to get into dental school. So they're doing some interviews, so good luck to her, and hopefully she gets back safely. Again, this is the regular meeting of the Board of Education for September 24th, 2018. For those of you in the audience who want to follow along, you can find our agenda outside the door and to the right. For those at home who want to follow along, you can go to our website, which is livoniapublicschools.org, highlight over the board tab, and you can drop down to agendas and you can follow along with us. One of the things, and it's become sort of a habit with me, that I like to just give an idea of what's going on in the district, and one of the things that we've been working on very hard as a district is our district climate goal. And one of the things that we work on, and I've again gotten into a habit of reading it, and the goal is all students will experience a positive, safe, and welcoming environment where both students and adults respect and value one another. That's a tremendously important goal. We try and instill that in all of our staff, our students, our parents, and we as a board follow that as well. We may not always agree on issues, but we respect each other and we listen to each other's points of view. And this is designed not only for student to student and adult to adult, but to adult to student as well. And we on the board will give all the respect to anyone who addresses the board. We expect that the audience will respect the board as well. So with that, we'll move on to our first item, which is communications. And 3A is our annual update summer renovations project. Mrs. Jenkins.
Good evening, President Johnson, members of the board, Superintendent Oquist. It's great to be back for another school year. As you well know, we have many points of pride in our district. Thanks to the community's support of the bond issue in 2013, we've been able to make some much-needed improvements to our facilities. Phase 5, if you can believe it, Phase 5 already, has been completed, and our district has never looked better. Renovations have taken place at 23 schools and facilities since the start of Phase 1. As has been the case each September, I recently took my trusty camera around the district and documented all of these beautiful improvements at our schools. I would now like to take you on a virtual tour, as we've done each September. This is the 5th time doing this already. So we will begin. Just a quick overview. All of the improvements are made possible through the bond issue, which is a $195 million investment that is transforming the learning environments for all of our students. The bond issue is also increasing property values, improving our neighborhoods, increasing security at our schools, and providing essential classroom technology. Nearly 3 million square feet of improvements have been made so far at 23 schools. We have completed all 3 performing arts centers, and we are this close to completing all of the bond projects. Improvements will be coming to Hoover Elementary next summer. So just a rundown of our Phase 5 projects. We had over the summer, Phase 2 and the completion, I should mention, of the Churchill High School Performing Arts Center, phase 2 of all of the other classroom and hallways, and we'll get way into that in a minute. The other renovations at Churchill, renovations at the Livonia Career Technical Center, Webster Elementary, Buchanan Elementary, and Jackson Early Childhood Center. We also took a look. We will also take a look at some of these sinking fund projects that we were able to complete over the summer, including some roof work that's ever so necessary and not all that exciting, but we do have photos. Athletic field renovations at Churchill, new boilers at Frost, new pool heaters at Stevenson and Franklin, paving projects at Buchanan, Cooper, Frost, Grant, Randolph, Roosevelt, and Stevenson, and a new archway entry sign at Nijigiro Elementary and at Central Office. Okay, so we'll start with the Churchill High School Performing Arts Center. This all-new state-of-the-art PAC is officially open. Well, we're having a grand opening, and I'll touch on that in a moment. Let's see, we'll run down some of the stats here. It's more than 23,000 square feet of theater space and adjacent spaces that have been renovated in this 942-seat theater. The Churchill PAC was rebuilt in its existing footprint with some modifications. The seating floor area was raised by 2 feet to better accommodate persons with disabilities, and the stage area was raised from its original footprint, raised by about 3 feet to match the elevation in the corridors. This beauty was designed by French associates and constructed by George W. Ott Company. Well, we loved the old auditorium at Churchill High School. These are some pictures of what it used to look like. It was built in 1969, completed in 2018. I really had fun photographing this empty space. It doesn't seem like it would be that exciting, but it truly was. Here's a photo on the right of some of the new rigging. On the left, another shot sort of from the control room and the new concession area in the hallway there. Some photos during construction. This was completed in 2 summers. Here's an example of when the floor was being raised, they brought in literal tons of sand to bring the floor up. Near completion. And ta-da! We're holding a grand opening event on Monday, a week from tonight, at 5 o'clock. From 5 to 6:30, the official ribbon cutting will happen at 5:30, and you all received your invitations. And we do have this posted on our website. We have some media coming to join us that evening, and it should be a great event. So looking forward to that. Okay, more improvements at Churchill. The classroom renovations also approximately half were completed the summer prior, and the other half completed this past summer. And just to refresh your memory, classroom renovations are literally top to bottom, with new floors, ceilings, lighting, air handling systems, windows, shades, multimedia interactive projectors, which project, as you know, onto the whiteboards, sound systems, and furniture. The during construction shots of the classrooms. Almost finished there. You can see the whiteboard with the tack boards on either side. And the finished classrooms. The interactive projectors are still, I think we're still finishing the installation in all the classrooms, but you can see an example there on the in the middle photo. The cafeteria was completed in phases, and now you can see there are the photos on the right show where the students can order. It's like a grab and grab-and-go cooler for beverages and snacks, and all of the new food stalls there and lines and computers. I noticed quite a few new seating options that are in various areas of Churchill. The photo on the left is right outside of the Black Box Theater, which is an extension off of the main PAC. The cafe tables are by the Big Red Shed, the student store, by the cafeteria, and then I think the lower right was right outside of the theater as well. Okay, more improvements. This would be on the left, Churchill's new community room. I'm trying to find my place here. And then, of course, a renovated restroom. The hallways are nice and bright with fresh new paint, new drinking fountains. I don't know if you've seen these, but the fountain on the right is a water bottle filler, which is so cool. And new lockers. Ceilings, lighting, all that good stuff. The front entrance is quite impressive. Here are a couple of shots, a couple of the shots during construction, obviously, with the colored concrete. And that's getting there, getting there, getting there. It's almost completed. And the completed. Okay, moving on. Let me just pause real quick here and find my notes for okay. Churchill's athletic facilities were also improved this summer with through the sinking fund. So this is a cool panoramic shot of the new football/soccer field. These here show the workers laying down the new logo. So professional. A couple more of the workers marking the lines. And then we have also on the Churchill campus a new softball field, softball diamond, baseball diamond, tennis courts, and track. Churchill is good to go. Okay, let's move across the street there to the Livonia Career Technical Center. The renovations at LCTC included the classroom renovations, the top to bottom that I described a moment ago, a new secure vestibule entry, a new main office, a new facade and arch entry, new renovated restrooms where needed, drinking fountains, hallway floors, ceilings, lighting, and furniture. And here's a look at the main office, probably in July, I would guess. And there's what it looks like. There's the current office. It's quite a transformation there. It is beautiful. Okay, the photo on the left is one of the hallways under construction, and on the right, the finished. More classroom renovations in progress here. Here's a photo of the graphic design classroom, which is quite large. You can really see how bright the new furniture, the lighting, carpet. Here's an interior classroom. I think it's maybe a math. This was one of my favorite stops at LCTC. This is the new student lounge, and everything you see here is brand new. Okay, these photos will show the brown facade that we had on the building for many, many years. And here's what we have today. What an improvement. Okay, move right along to Webster Elementary. I just don't want to forget anything here. Okay, so the same renovations occurred at Webster. I think we had the addition of some renovations that took place in the gym. But everything else is the same as the other schools, with the top-to-bottom classroom renovations, a new secured vestibule entry, a brand-new main office, a new facade and archway, restrooms, drinking fountains, hallway floors, lighting in ceilings, furniture, and a little bit in the gymnasium. Okay, this was over the summer during the construction of the front exterior. It looks so nice. I like the addition of the nice sign that they added to the banner. Here's the main office during construction. And just stunning. The office on the right is Principal Boca's office, and she was so excited to have me come on in. She said, "Can you believe this?" So, yeah, it turned out so nice. Okay, more under construction through the hallways here. There's one of the completed hallways, just so you get an idea of the accent tiles on the flooring, the accent stripes along every wall. Classrooms under renovation. There's the air handling unit that you see in the center of each photo that circulates the air through the classroom. And we have two completed classrooms here. I think both have the short throw interactive projectors, you can see. I popped in on a teacher on the photo for the right. She said, "Oh, let me turn it on, and let me find a message to put up." There's some work in the gym. The gym completed. So nice and bright. Here is one of the examples of a secured vestibule. I was sort of holding the door open with my foot while I took the photo. Here's a example of one of the renovated restrooms. I love their colors. The color scheme looks cool. The photo on the right is the staff lounge, part of the staff lounge. And moving right along, we are now at Buchanan. And Buchanan received the majority of its updates years back between 2008 and 2010. 99% of the school was renovated at that time, so there was not as much work to be done with the bond at this building, but we did find Mr. Wenstrom took me through and showed me everything that was brand new. So I'll run down the list here because it is a little bit different. Classroom technology and sound systems were added to every classroom. We have a new computer lab. Classroom renovations where needed, those that did not receive renovations back in 2008. Lighting in the gymnasium, secured vestibule entry, the facade, and obviously the arch. Restrooms where needed, drinking fountains, and some furniture. This is the main entrance, and the room to your right is the main office during construction, obviously. And here I am coming through the first set of doors into the secured vestibule. The office is on my left, and straight through the doors now where there was a wall blocking that space there, that's all been cleared and opens the lobby area up. Classrooms. And a couple of the finished kindergarten rooms, or the kindergarten room on the left. So bright and cheerful. Mm-hmm. And notice how each of these rooms also received a half carpet. It's great for the little ones. There's a drinking fountain. The hallways are much brighter. And the staff loves it. Okay. Move right along to Jackson Center. So we start with Jackson Center with the facade on the exterior front. We've got the arches, and that color appears navy blue. It's actually a dark purple, like a plum.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's really neat. Here's the secured vestibule entrance, and the main office is on the right there. Here's on the other side of the doors. The office is now on the left. Classrooms during construction. Classrooms following. And you can see, I thought this was really neat too, that same plum color is used throughout the building as the accent wall. And in the restrooms, it's actually plum and blue and gray. And a drinking fountain. And that does it for Jackson Center. I'm sure that we've all noticed that we've carried on our branding with the arches out front here at Central Office. I've been of all of the projects, that has been one item that people have commented to me. I'm so happy to see that that's out there. Okay. Also at Central Office, we had some roof repairs here at the complex. And around the district, some of the sinking fund projects. Parking lots, as I mentioned, at 6 schools. There are the ever exciting photos of the rooftop, the new roof at Holmes, and the new boilers at Frost. The center photo is just a during construction of, I think maybe at Grant. I'm not exactly sure which school what that was. Paving project. And there we have it. I'd like to again thank the community for its support of the 2013 bond issue, and we look forward to seeing renovations next summer at Hoover Elementary.
Thank you
very
Mrs.
much.
Jenkins.
And this slideshow will be posted on our website under the district tab. If you click on district and go to bond issue, I will post it right under there. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank
Questions
you.
or
Thank you.
comments from the board?
Looks great.
That's amazing.
Yes, thank you.
Amazing what paint does and makes it look so fresh and updates it for the kids.
And again, none of this would have been possible without our community. Through the sinking fund and through the bond, they've been so generous in allowing us to do this work, and I think we can see what it's done. So again, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Okay. That'll move us on to item 3B, district update from our superintendent, Mrs. Oquist.
Thank you, President Johnson. Well, we are off to a great start for this school year, and thank you to Mrs. Jenkins for putting together that wonderful slideshow. We're excited to share it with the community so they have an opportunity to see not only their school, but all of the schools in the district. I have a few updates for you. We are thrilled to share with you the news that Nijiro Japanese Immersion Elementary has been awarded a $30,000 grant from the Japan Foundation. This grant will be used to partially fund the addition of grade 6 to our offerings at Nijiro. Over the past 4 years, the enrollment has more than doubled, and we are so very proud of the students, the staff, and the families who make up this special school community. So as you may recall, when we first opened Nijiro, we had grades K through 4. 2 years ago, we added grade 5, and again, with this generous grant from the Japan Foundation, we were able to partially fund the addition of grade 6. Speaking of Niji, they had a wonderful annual event last Friday. They held their fun-filled event called Undikai. And Undikai is an athletic event that is traditionally held in Japanese schools every year. It's a full day of activities, athletics, and contests. Many families, parents take the day off of work to join in, and it was a tremendous day. We are so grateful for all of the work and the planning that went into hosting this event, and I believe they had over 100 parent volunteers as well. So thank you for that. As Mrs. Jenkins mentioned, on Monday, October 1st, we'll be holding a special ribbon cutting for the renovation at Churchill High School, and specifically the James P. Carley Performing Arts Center. Our community is very welcome to join us. It is not just for the Churchill community, but for our entire community. We'll have the ribbon cutting at 5:30, and then I believe some student performances on stage as well. Speaking of grants, this morning, one of our teachers at Webster was surprised by Mojo in the Morning. Do any of you know what that is?
Yeah.
One of our local radio stations. I knew you guys were pretty hip. I thought you would know that. Who arrived to present a $1,000 check for use of to purchase classroom materials in Miss Common's classroom. So congratulations, and I believe Mrs. Jenkins linked the video of that surprise visit on our Facebook. We appreciate the wonderful attendance and participation in our open houses and curriculum nights these past couple of weeks. I believe we have 3 more open houses this week, and we are really thrilled to see the number of parents who have come out to participate in those events, and certainly always great to see our students showing off their classrooms and their schools and their learning areas at the open houses. Just a reminder for our kindergarten parents, you should have heard information about the Competitive Edge, which is a college savings program that is offered through our LPS Education Foundation. If you have any questions on that, or if you've not yet turned in your form, please feel free to contact the district, and we'll be sure to we'll put you in touch so that you can do that for your child. On September 11th, Hoover Elementary held its annual Freedom Run, which has been an annual event coordinated by their wonderful physical education teacher, Mr. O'Loughlin, and sponsored by the wonderful Hoover PTA. Lots of red, white, and blue, pride for our USA, and a celebration of the freedoms we share. The students participated, and it was a wonderful event for all. This week is homecoming week at Churchill and Stevenson, with home games at both of those schools on Friday and the dance on Saturday. Franklin's will be held the following week. Homecoming week is always a fun-filled week of activities, spirited dress, and various activities for each of the grade levels. So we wish all of our high school students a great homecoming week, successful games, and a safe and enjoyable dance on Saturday. Finally, October 13th, Franklin High School will be hosting Americana, a marching band festival, featuring marching band performances from students all across our region. So mark your calendars and be sure to attend if you're able to do so. Thank you, President Johnson.
Thank you, Mrs. Oquist. That'll move us to item 3C, written communications. I do not have any written communications. Are there any written communications? Seeing none. That'll move us on to 3D, audience communications. I do not have any blue slips. Anybody? We have one.
Yeah.
Come on down. Thanks. Lauren Peters. Hi, Miss Peters. How are you tonight?
Good, how are you?
Good.
I sit on the steering team of Blessings in a Backpack, Livonia, and myself, along with a few of my other steering team members, just wanted to come out and thank you guys so much, the board and administration, for providing us with space at Marshall Elementary. We took over what was the clothing depot when it was there. It's been absolutely wonderful the past month or so to be working out of there. Since this time last year, our numbers have increased by 300 students, and we basically ran out of space at our old location, which had been so accommodating, but really we were searching for something bigger, and we're just, again, so thankful for how that's played out. The setup has worked great for us. Mr. Francis, warehouse, buildings, everyone has been so accommodating and just so generous with anything that we've needed. Our volunteers have remarked on how pleased they are with the setup. No more lugging bins up and down stairs. It's really just, it's an amazing spot for us, and we're so pleased that, especially in the past year, we've seen so many of you at our events, and we greatly appreciate that support. There's so many kids in this community in need, and we're just happy to be serving them each day. I just also wanted to tell you all that we will be having our annual bowling fundraiser November 10th at Mary Bowl. We'd be so happy to see you there. Besides that, we are having, we're trying this for a second time. We're doing a vendor fair October 14th at the Senior Center in the afternoon. And that just kind of gets us prepped for our bowling event. So we'd be happy to see any of you there. Again, thank you so much. It really just couldn't have come at a better time with the increase in kids, and it's just been marvelous for us. Besides that, I am the PTA president at Grant, and I just want to thank you for redoing the parking lot this summer. It's been wonderful for parents. All of us are commenting on how much better the flow is. So, thank you.
Great to hear.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for coming. Okay, I have no other blue slips. So we'll move on to item 3E, response to prior audience communication. I do not have any response. Does anyone else have? Seeing none, we'll move on to item 4, consent agenda, and I need a motion, please.
President Johnson,
Mrs. Bradford.
move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District approve the following consent agenda items as recommended by the superintendent. 5A, minutes of the regular meeting of August 20th, 2018. 5B, minutes of the special meetings of September 17th, 2018. 6A, approval of the 2018-2019 tuition rate. And 6B, approval to purchase bulk salt.
Support. We have a motion by Mrs. Bradford, supported by Mr. Centers. Mrs. Oquist, are you going to do anything with that or not?
The consent agenda?
Yes.
Nope, we're all set.
Okay.
Thank you.
Questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, we have a motion by Mrs. Bradford, supported by Mr. Centers, to accept the consent agenda. Would you take the roll, please?
Mrs. Bradford.
Yes.
Mr. Centers.
Yes.
Mrs. Frank.
Yes.
Mrs. Jarvis.
Yes.
Mrs. Bonnefield says yes. President Johnson.
Yes, and motion carries. Thank you. That'll take us to item 6C, approval of bid results for pizza. May I have a motion, please?
President Johnson,
Mrs. Jarvis.
move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District accept the Food and Nutrition Services pizza bid recommendation for the 2018-19 school year for Pizza Hut, Livonia, Michigan, to supply pizza lunches for an estimated cost of $171,750.
Support. We have a motion by Mrs. Jarvis, supported by Mr. Centers. Mr. Francis, are you going to help us with that?
Yes, Mr. Johnson. Good evening, everybody. The Pizza Hut was the low responsible bidder for the bid that we put out. Actually, Pizza Hut, they do run a school lunch program that meets the qualifications that are set out with the governmental guidelines. And in fact, Pizza Hut did win the low contract a couple years ago that we had placed out to bid. So they have been servicing the school district with the pizza. We've been satisfied with their work, and we do recommend them on this 2-year contract with a option to add a 3rd year.
Thank you, Mr. Francis. Questions or comments from the board? Seeing none. I know we had some discussion about this at the Committee of the Whole.
Yes, sir.
Could you just remind the community that this isn't your normal?
Correct.
Pizza?
This is not exactly the same pizza that you go if you walked in the door or picked up the phone. The Pizza Hut has a school lunch program that it qualifies under the guidelines and regulations for government lunch program, and this is specifically for those types of pizzas made. It's again, a specified item, and anybody, or any company, I should say, that was bidding on this had to have the appropriate product.
Thank you. Mrs. Bonnefield.
Mr. Francis, on this, it says the cost is $171,750. Is that offset at all by the students purchasing those slices?
That's first of all, that's an estimated item, so the cost would be to us. So the estimation is just based upon what was sold in the previous school year, what we estimate for this year times the cost of our pizzas. Now, the students who purchase pizza, obviously that goes into the food service funding as is appropriate based upon sales.
So yes.
Yes.
Other questions or comments? Seeing none, we have a motion by Mrs. Jarvis, supported by Mr. Centers, for the approval of bid results for pizza. Mrs. Bonnefield, would you take the roll, please?
Mrs. Jarvis.
Yes.
Mr. Centers.
Yes.
Mrs. Bradford.
Yes.
Mrs. Frank.
Yes.
Mrs. Bonnefield says yes. President Johnson.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you. That takes us to item 6D, approval of bid results for Churchill and Stevenson Dugouts. May I have a motion, please?
President Johnson.
Mr. Centers.
Move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District approve the recommendation of the owner's representative, Plant Moran Cressa, to award the contract for the Churchill High School and Stevenson High School Dugouts project to Axiom Construction Services Group, Whitmore Lake, Michigan, in the amount of $700,000.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, $270,000 plus contingency in the amount of $27,000 for a total of $297,000, and authorize the superintendent or her designee to negotiate and execute final contract on behalf of the Board of Education.
Support.
We have a motion by Mr. Centers, supported by Mrs. Frank. Mr. Francis, you'll help us with this as well?
Yes, sir. First, I'd like to thank Mr. Centers for padding my budget there a little bit. I appreciate it. No, in all seriousness, we do have the Dugout Project. This is a sinking fund project. It is the finishing up, if you will, at Churchill in the athletic fields, as Mrs. Jenkins had shown the photographs earlier during her slide presentation. We've had an ongoing summer project at Churchill High School with athletic fields. This is, again, part of that upgrade. The Stevenson portion of their dugouts is simply an add-on to it. The fields aren't used for baseball and softball in the fall, so the idea being, let's get them up and running this fall, ready for spring. Don't worry, Stevenson and Franklin, we are coming to your neighborhood next summer with your own projects. But for now, we're discussing the softball dugout build at Churchill, which would bring those dugouts up to equivalency to the other two high schools' softball dugouts. And we're looking to do a little renovation and a little slight upgrades and fix-ups over at the baseball dugouts for Stevenson and Churchill. Franklin has asked that we do not deal with their baseball dugouts. They have other needs, but their baseball dugouts are not one of them at this time. So we do ask that we recommend the board's approval on this project so we can begin it this fall and have it completed before the poor weather hopefully comes rolling in later rather than sooner.
Thank you, Mr. Francis.
You're welcome.
Any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, we have a motion by Mr. Centers, supported by Mrs. Frank, to approve the bid results for Churchill and Stevenson dugouts. Mrs. Bonnefield, would you take the roll, please?
I will. Is everybody okay to vote? Do we need to reread anything? Okay. We're all
I think
good?
we're good.
Okay. Mr. Centers?
Yes.
Mrs. Jarvis?
Yes.
Mrs. Bradford?
Yes.
Mrs. Frank?
Yes.
Mrs. Bonnefield says yes. President Johnson?
Yes, motion carries. Thank you. That takes us to item 7, personnel matters, and our first item is A, teachers for approval. May I have a motion, please?
President Johnson?
Mrs. Bonnefield?
Move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District accept the recommendation of the superintendent and offer employment for the 2018-19 school year to the teachers listed on the attached document.
Support.
We have a motion by Mrs. Bonnefield, supported by Mrs. Bradford. Mr. Archibald?
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. These teachers have been interviewed along with many other applicants for vacancies that existed in our instructional program. We believe that the individuals listed are the most qualified for the position indicated and recommended that they be approved for employment. These positions are within the 2018-2019 budget.
Thank you, Mr. Archibald. Any questions or comments from the board?
Congratulations.
Congratulations indeed.
Mhm.
All right, we have a motion by Mrs. Bonnefield, supported by Mrs. Bradford, for the approval of teachers on the list. Mrs. Bonnefield, would you take the roll, please?
Mrs. Bonnefield says yes. Mrs. Bradford?
Yes.
Mr. Centers?
Yes.
Mrs. Frank?
Yes.
Mrs. Jarvis.
Yes.
President Johnson.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you. That takes us to item 7B, teachers for tenure. May I have a motion, please?
President Johnson.
Mrs. Frank.
Move that the Board of Education of Livonia Public Schools School District accept the recommendation of the superintendent and acknowledge that tenure status be granted to the following teacher, effective on the respective date. Casey McCullough, September 9th, 2018.
Support.
We have motions by Mrs. Frank, supported by Mr. Centers. Mr. Archibald, you going to handle this as well?
Yes, I will. Thank you.
Thank you.
The teacher named has successfully met the requirements for a probationary teacher to be granted tenure, including years of service and job performance, as indicated through the annual year-end evaluation process. We are asking that the Board of Education acknowledge that this individual has achieved tenure status.
Thank you, Mr. Archibald. Questions or comments from the board?
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Seeing none, we have a motion by Mrs. Frank, supported by Mr. Centers, to grant tenure status to a teacher. Mrs. Bonnefield, would you take the roll, please?
Mrs. Frank.
Yes.
Mr. Centers.
Yes.
Mrs. Bradford.
Yes.
Mrs. Jarvis.
Yes.
Mrs. Bonnefield says yes. President Johnson.
Yes. Thank you. That motion is approved. And that takes us to item 7C, leave of absence. May I have a motion, please?
President Johnson.
Mrs. Jarvis.
Move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District accept the recommendation of the superintendent and approve the request for leaves of absence as listed below. Kim Dusablan, effective August 28, 2018. Jill Lozo, effective August 28, 2018.
Support.
We have a motion by Mrs. Jarvis, supported by Mr. Centers. Mr. Archibald, you're up again.
Yes, these requests for leave are in accordance with the LEA collective bargaining agreement, and as such, we are requesting that these leaves be approved as requested for the 2018-2019 school year.
Thank you, Mr. Archibald. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, we have a motion by Mrs. Jarvis, supported by Mr. Centers, to accept leaves of absence. Mrs. Bonnefield, would you take the roll, please?
Mrs. Jarvis.
Yes.
Mr. Centers.
Yes.
Mrs. Bradford.
Yes.
Mrs. Frank.
Yes.
Mrs. Bonnefield says yes. President Johnson.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you. That takes us to item 7D, resignations. This is for our information only. We do not need a motion on this. So we'll move to item 7E, resolutions of appreciation for employees who are retiring. May I have a motion, please?
President Johnson.
Mrs. Bradford.
Move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District adopt the attached resolutions of appreciation for the services rendered by Joseph Marizano and William Punter.
Support.
We have a motion by Mrs. Bradford, supported by Mrs. Bonnefield. Mr. Archibald.
Yes, thank you again. Tonight, we bring before you the names of two employees who will be retiring from the district. These individuals will retire with a combined 40 years of experience with Livonia Public Schools. On behalf of the district, I would like to thank both individuals for their years of dedicated service to our students and staff and entire school community, and ask that the board adopt the attached resolutions of appreciation in their honor.
Thank you, Mr. Archibald. Questions or comments from the board?
Happy retirement.
Yeah, congratulations.
Yes.
All right, we have a motion by Mrs. Bradford, supported by Mrs. Bonnefield, to accept resolutions of appreciations for employees who are retiring. Mrs. Bonnefield, would you take the roll, please?
Mrs. Bradford.
Yes.
Mrs. Bonnefield says yes. Mr. Centers.
Yes.
Mrs. Frank.
Yes.
Mrs. Jarvis.
Yes.
President Johnson.
Yes. Motion carries. Again, congratulations and good luck. That takes us to item 8, hearing from board members. Our first item is 8A, first reading of board policy JCDAA, prohibited use of tobacco substances. May I have a motion, please?
President Johnson.
Mr. Centers.
Policy,
Oh, I'm sorry. This is a first reading.
this is a first reading.
This is a first reading. Okay. Mr. Willenborg, how's your knee, by the way?
Thank you, Mr. Johnson, President Johnson. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to learn to,
Are you able to speak?
yes.
Thank you.
We believe there was a need to revise this policy to reflect present and current language, such as chewing tobacco and the use of e-cigarettes and vaping mechanisms. We also struggled with the title of the policy, student smoking, which seemed to suggest that, that smoking was acceptable, and you just had to go into the smoking lounge to smoke. So new to this meeting is a renamed policy title, now named Prohibited Use of Tobacco Substances. I recommend policy JCDAA for your continuing review and approval during a future meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Willenborg. Questions, comments from the board? Everybody good with the language? Mrs. Bradford?
I just wanted to say, I think the title is much better suited for that. Yeah, I like it much better, so thank you for rewriting that.
Other questions or comments?
President Johnson?
Yes. Mrs.
So
Oaquist.
just a reminder to our school community, we are in the process of reviewing all of our board policies. And prior to coming to the first reading, these policies would have been reviewed and suggested changes discussed at length at the board study session, and then again at a board committee meeting. When we put these policies up online as part of the board book, folks in our community can also see where the suggested changes are. And the policy to approve these requires a reading and a review at 2 separate board meetings after those initial study. So if any of our community members are ever interested in taking a deeper dive, both the changed policies and the former policies are available on our website for review.
Thank you, Mrs. Oaquist.
You're welcome.
I also want to point out that, as Mrs. Oaquist said, these board policies come to us at least twice before this meeting, both in a study session and a committee of the whole. And even when we were done with the committee of the whole, our staff continues to look at it and evaluate. And Mr. Willenborg saw this, and even after we had had full discussion, this came up. And thank you for continuing to look at these, even once we've had our say, to make sure that they are correct and accurate. We appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions on the first reading of JCDAA? If not, then that will be brought for a vote on at our next regular meeting in October. That'll take us then to item 8B, and this is the first reading of Board Policy JCDAE, Personal Communications Devices. And again, Mr. Willenborg.
Thank you, President Johnson. This policy, previously reviewed at a study session and a committee of whole meeting, was previously referred to as electronic communication devices. It was written in 2004 when BlackBerries and MySpace were hot on the social media scene. The policy then was written pretty much to eliminate the use of these devilish things called cell phones and keep them out of our schools. Our revised policy still prohibits accessing inappropriate websites and recording without permission, but it now recognizes personal communication devices as valuable instructional and learning tools whose authorized use is best left as a decision of the classroom teacher and the building administration. I recommend policy JCDAE for your continuing review and approval during a future Board of Education meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Willenborg. Questions or comments from the board? Seeing none, if we're all satisfied with the language, then this will come on for a vote at our next regular meeting in October as well. That'll move us to item 8C, hearing from board members. And over the years, we have sort of modified and morphed into one form or another of hearing from board members, and we are sort of back to our individual voices for this particular part of the meeting. So I will open it up to any member of the board who has anything that they'd like to add. Mr. Centers.
I would just like to thank our school administrators and staff for opening up opportunities for us to attend curriculum nights, open houses. I think all of us were out and about. It really is a great example to see how vibrant our schools are. The ones I attended were very well attended by parents. You saw people very engaged in their children's learning, and staff members really excited to show off the buildings, the curricular materials. So it was just really great experiences every time I was out. So, keep up the great work, and it was really great to see.
Thank you, Mr. Centers. Other comments? Mrs. Frank?
We, as board members, know often we have community members that come up and want to discuss a concern or something like that with us, but it's lovely when they want to brag on one of our staff members. So I just want to give a shout out to the staff at Holmes Middle School. Somebody came up and said, I was driving by Holmes on Sunday and Mr. Stromberg was out weed whipping or trimming the yard. And I just think that a principal who sets the tone like that, who goes beyond the normal thing that's required of them and does the extra thing, it says a lot to our community when people see him out there. But it's just great for people to see that the principals are caring, that people are going above and beyond. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Mr. Stromberg. And on a separate occasion, a new teacher in that building came up to me, approached me and said, she's been a teacher for about 15 years in another district and has worked in various buildings, and said, I've never seen a culture like this. I've never worked with teachers like this. I've never worked with a principal and an assistant principal who care about their teachers and really speak into them in terms of training and in the students, what they are required to do with the students, and just be attentive to the students. She said it's just a phenomenal place to work. So I just wanted to give that shout out because I was so impressed. Those were comments. Those were just community members who thought they were doing a great job. And then also at Hoover Elementary, I was at their open house, and one of their teachers just recently had a medical concern, and so she was out, and the principal was actually doing the curriculum night for her classroom. So Mrs. Lynn stepped in and did the curriculum, and then I also noticed she was being introduced to a new family to the district, and as she was being introduced to the family, she said, oh, I know the son, I work with him on his vocabulary every week. So the principal is also working with the students on letters and being engaged in the students. So I just think both of those examples are just phenomenal examples of people going above and beyond for our students, our community, and our district. So thank you both to Mrs. Lynn, to Mr. Stromberg, and Mrs. Dykstra. Thanks for all that everyone does in our district, but those were two comments that came to me this week that were really exciting to hear. Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mrs. Frank. Any other questions or comments? Mrs. Jarvis?
Thank you. I just wanted to reiterate something that was touched on earlier this evening, and that is the LPS Education Foundation's program, the Competitive Edge College Savings Program. If you are a parent of a kindergarten student and you attended your open house or curriculum night, someone has already talked to you about this, and perhaps you brought your packet home and you're thinking about whether or not this is real, is this true, is someone willing to set up a 529 account for my kindergartner? And the answer is an emphatic yes. This is free money. There's no strings attached. Please take a few minutes to sign the form and to sign your child up for the 529 program. It's not going to pay for everything when they get to college, but all those dollars do add up. And who would want to turn down free money? This is a way that our community can support our schools. All of the funding for the 529 Competitive Edge program comes from our community. And it's a way that we say thank you for being part of our Livonia Public Schools family. And it's also a way that we put our money where our mouth is, because we believe that if a child starts in kindergarten in LPS and goes all the way through and graduates from a Livonia high school, that they will be ready for whatever education comes next. And what better way to show that than to provide them dollars to do that? So please take a moment and fill out that form.
Thank you, Mrs. Jarvis. Other questions or comments? Mrs. Bradford?
While everybody else is speaking, I'm going to too. I would like to do a shout out to all the PTAs in the district. As school starts, I was attending several of the open houses, and I saw a lot of exciting PTA members just geared up for the new year and getting everything set. Our PTAs are so valuable to this district. So if you get an opportunity to join a PTA, please do so. It supports our schools, and they work really hard. So thank you to all our PTAs in this district. And we as a board certainly support all of the PTAs here, so thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Bradford. Other questions or comments? Seeing none, then we've come to the end of C. That brings us to item 8D, which is our recess to closed session for superintendent's evaluation. May I have a motion, please?
President Johnson,
Mrs. Bonnefield.
move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District recess to closed session for the purpose of the superintendent's evaluation update.
Support.
We have a motion by Mrs. Bonnefield, supported by Mrs. Jarvis. Questions or comments from the board? Mrs. Oquist?
Just a quick note for our viewing audience. Since this is a mid-year update, it's not the formal evaluation. The board will not be coming back on camera to share information and to close out the meeting. So this will be the last item on the meeting. So folks were out there waiting for us to return. That will not happen this evening since this is a mid-year update.
Thank you, Mrs. Oquist. We have a motion by Mrs. Bonnefield, supported by Mrs. Jarvis, to recess to closed session. Mrs. Bonnefield, would you take the roll, please?
Mrs. Bonnefield says yes. Mrs. Jarvis?
Yes.
Mrs. Bradford?
Yes.
Mr. Centers?
Yes.
Mrs. Frank?
Yes.
And President Johnson?
Yes, that motion carries, and we are in recess. Thank you.